guys. I'm Danny Johnson, CEO at TPP, The Positive Porpoise.
I'm Jason Miller from Fins Up SoCal Fan Club.
I'm Scott Howell from Atlanta Dolphin Club.
Mark Angelo, NorCal Dolphin Club.
And you're listening to Clock Blockers, Miami fans' #1 morning show.
Hey, Daniel, can you hear me? Huh. There we go. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Clock Blockers, and this is Cameron 954 from East 32 Dolphins Tailgate. Excuse me if I have a couple technical difficulties here, but we're going to get this show rolling. I've got Daniel in the back here. He'll be on here in a second. And once I get this figured out, there's Daniel.
How you doing?
Hey, good morning, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. You're not Stephen D.
I'm not Stephen D. This is Cameron. You and I met the other night briefly, Saturday night at Bo Campers.
Yeah.
And Stephen, I think he needed to take a mental break day today. So
he's the hardest working man in America.
So we're gonna give that to him, and we'll try not to fumble too much here today. But I'm glad you're on here with me today, and we'll get this show rolling, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It feels good for everybody. Coming off a dub. I always say we don't root for the team, root against the team, but it's always better when they're winning. So, definitely excited for this Thursday night game.
Yeah, the Thursday night game coming up with the Ravens. We'll see how that goes. But I first want to recap the weekend with you. And I think this is your first fan club weekend experience. So I wanted to get your take and see what you felt about everything.
No, it was a real cool experience. Like a lot of people have found out as I've been coming on here Tuesday mornings. I'm only 3 months in South Florida and Miami, and it's you interact with a lot of people on Twitter, see a lot of people at you, and DM you and whatnot. So to put faces to some names and to talk to people and to have that real life interaction, it was a real cool experience. I'm glad that I came out.
Yeah, we had a great turnout this year, and especially in not doing the event last year because of the pandemic. We had really an overwhelming turnout, and it was really great to see.
It was packed.
Folks from all walks of the globe really make the effort to come to fan club weekend, regardless of the team being 1-7. And that's a testament to the fans of the Dolphins and all the organization that's been put in by the fan club leaders. And I'll give a shout out to Steve and Miami Sports Music, NorCal Dolphin. Those are the guys, Scott Howell from Atlanta Dolphin Club and Danny Johnson from TPP. Really instrumental in bringing everybody together. We had a great contingent from Mexico last night.
Yeah.
And those guys are just awesome, man. Yeah. Just awesome. So, we had a wonderful turnout at East 32 Dolphins Tailgate. We had about 400 people out there. Even had a live wedding down at East 12, which was absolutely bananas. Never thought I'd see that again, but it was pretty cool. So, give me your take on the game.
Well, it wasn't easy on the eyes, that's for sure. But Mike Gesicki kind of put it best. A win is a win, and this team really needed a win. So you almost kind of don't even care about how it comes. So, I think that there definitely was a sigh of relief with the team. For almost 2 months, we've been hearing we're so close, we're so close, we're so close. And, despite all the issues that this team has, you could say that, yeah, they were really close. I mean, 3 of those games were walk-off losses to the Raiders, to the Falcons, to the Jaguars. I mean, if the ball bounces a different way, maybe, I'm not saying they're going to be like 7-2 or anything like that, but maybe they are closer to 500 and you feel a little bit better. So for them to get that win, you do feel a little better. Obviously it wasn't a real encouraging effort. Turning the ball over 5 times, 2 and not playing, and his status for Thursday night is still up in the air. But I think that if you kind of take little things, we all kind of know this team isn't going to the playoffs. So if you can kind of take some little bits of positives the rest of the way, I feel like that's the way to go. And if you're trying to take that angle, you got to be happy with the young safeties, Brandon Jones and Devon Holland. Holland getting his first interception. Those two are really, we saw early in the year, the defensive coaching staff kind of was doing a platoon thing with the safeties where they were swapping them in and out with Jason McCourty, and obviously him going down kind of made things easier. But I think they're really settling into that. They're getting more pressure. Agba finally was able to get to the quarterback. 2.5 sacks. I thought Jalen Phillips looked good. So I mean, if you're trying to take bits and positives of a kind of an ugly win, I mean that's where you go. Now obviously the Ravens are going to be a real tough test, and I think that we're gonna kind of get some answers on whether this defense is really starting to turn things around. The offense is going to have its hands full against that Ravens defense. But again, it's a really interesting matchup, and I think that the game's going to be a little bit closer than most people think.
No, I agree on a lot of things you just said, and I want to break it down piece by piece here. It wasn't recapping the game on Sunday, it wasn't the cleanest game, but a dub's a dub, right? And it's got to feel good for the locker room, as you mentioned, to get a win under their belt after, the first game of the season and not having one for the last 6. So it was good to get that winning culture back into the locker room, even though it felt kind of detrimented by all the turnovers.
Yeah, and, if you saw Flores talk after the game, you would have thought they lost. I mean, he was as straight face as possible. I know he's usually like that, but I was even thinking, I was telling somebody in the interview room, I was like, if that was the Texans that won that game, David Culley would have been smiling from ear to ear, because that's this is kind of what we kind of expected the Texans to be this. Nobody expected the Dolphins to be this bad. So
right.
They'll take a win any way they can, but they're not jumping for joy too much. They're quickly saying, hey, we got to fix those turnovers. We got a game on Thursday night. They know that if they turn the ball over 5 times against Baltimore, they're going to get blown out.
Yeah, and we kind of wanted to see the team, face the Texans, who we on paper think that are really inferior to the Dolphins, correct? Like, as you mentioned, we had some close losses that could have gone our way. So we think we're better than what our record speaks to, right? So we wanted to see a game where we won handily, and I don't think that happened. So that's kind of how the fans feel. There's kind of even though we got the dub, it was kind of a letdown regardless. And then and I hate to feel that way, right? Because a win.
You want to be happy. You want to be happy after a win, but we're kind of wanting more. Yeah.
Yeah, and so going into Thursday's game with the Ravens, it's a daunting task, and we haven't fared well against the Ravens the past 4 or 5 games, and they've had a number. In fact, Steven and Solo D hosted the Baltimore Beatdown, as we call it now, which I was at, and it was the last Thursday night game I think the Dolphins played, and so I hope the reversal of fortune is going to happen here this Thursday. But so let me ask you this, Daniel, in your mind, what has to happen for the Dolphins to have a chance to win?
You hate when coaches say this, but it really is like a team effort. But really, I think that, the first kind of item on the agenda is trying to contain Lamar Jackson. I won't say stop Lamar Jackson because I don't know, very few teams have stopped him, but I'll say contain him. And I think that the defense, and specifically the defensive front, is going to have the best, game of the season. I'm not sure if but Steven we've talked about a lot on the show. I covered the Ravens for 2 seasons, the past 2 seasons with the Baltimore Sun. And one thing that sticks out to me from some of the games that Lamar has really struggled in, he's been made uncomfortable by defensive front. And, you can say, okay, you can just say, oh, they have to get to the passer and sack Lamar. It's not necessarily about sacking Lamar. It's about kind of containing him and keeping in the pocket and not leaving those lanes for him to scramble. I'm really interested to see what the kind of game plan is, because it's an interesting. I was looking up some stats last night. It's interesting that Lamar has been blitzed he's top 4 in facing blitzes in terms of how often he faces blitzes. And you think that's kind of like a weird strategy to use against Lamar, because he can quickly evade the rush and then scramble into the open field if you're kind of in man coverage. But the offensive line of the Ravens has had some injuries. The entire team has had some injuries, and the offensive line hasn't been spared. So if there's any matchup that I think that could actually favor the Dolphins, it could potentially be that the Dolphins defensive line against the Ravens offensive line. I think that guys like Emmanuel Ogbah are going to have to have some success. I think that Emmanuel Ogbah can and probably will have some success against the Ravens right tackle. Christian Wilkins is going to have a big game. You're going to need probably Jalen Phillips to have a big game. And obviously, we talk a lot about kind of using a spy to kind of like track Lamar, and that's that very well might be Jerome Baker. So he's going to have to also have a really strong game. And for as much as we talk about Lamar's running ability, I mean, he's really improved as a passer, and the Ravens have really built a scheme around him that kind of blends the running game and the passing game and makes everything look the same, and it really puts a lot of pressure on defenses. So I think that there's even as much pressure on guys like Javon Holland in the back of the secondary to not bite on every single play action and to stay disciplined, because they've got guys like Marquise Brown, who's also a South Florida native like Lamar Jackson. They've got guys like Mark Andrews. The first round pick with Sean Bateman is a really smooth route runner. So it's not just Lamar, but obviously he's kind of enemy number one in terms of if you can stop him, it goes a lot in terms of stopping the Ravens offense.
So you brought up some interesting points there, especially the defensive line of the Dolphins versus the offensive line of the Ravens, and the trajectory right now. The defensive line of the Dolphins, I think, is up. Right, Jalen Phillips is playing more snaps. He's getting penetration and containing the edge. And Ogbah's, in my eyes, is having a really good season. Yeah, he doesn't have the sack numbers as he did last year, but he's had quite a bit of pressure on the quarterback, and he's playing some good ball. And seeing those two, I think, to your point, contain the edge and set the edge, I think is important to keep Jackson in that pocket. The Dolphins, throughout the season, haven't been a blitzing team. I think they rank in the bottom third of blitzing defenses in the NFL. Is that going to change this Thursday, or do they play a safer game and kind of contain Lamar and try to, match up one-on-one on the outside and keep Andrews in check in the middle?
Yeah, it is a really interesting question, and that's really what I'm going to be so fascinated with what Josh Boyer and Brian Flores does. I think that you definitely want to give a mixture of looks. So you don't just want to play, man-to-man, single high safety the entire game, because eventually Lamar's he's just gonna start scrambling. And we've seen, in some of the Ravens games that I've been able to watch this season, I haven't noticed him kind of revert back to that tendency to scramble after that first read. Maybe just because he's not as comfortable with the offensive line. But you also don't want to just sit back in zones, because like I said, he's really improved in reading defenses. He can pick you apart, as we kind of saw. I'm not sure if you saw that Monday night game against the Colts, but he was just picking apart the Indianapolis defense after a while. They were just sitting in zone defenses, and he was just locked. He was in his zone. So I think that there's definitely going to be a mixture of looks. I think that you will see the Dolphins at times try to pressure him. If they can get him in those 3rd and 9 opportunities, and that's why 1st and 2nd down is going to be so important. If they can get the Ravens in 3rd and 9, I think you will see them blitz him and try to get him off his drop back. But again, they're gonna have to disguise looks, because he's really, I still think he's underrated as a passer. And in his improvements.
I agree with you. I want to show this real quick here. Dolphin Don, he says, for the Dolphins to win, Lamar Jackson will have to be kidnapped and dropped off in Disney World, and John Harbaugh should be forced to solve it. That's pretty funny. Yeah. So good stuff there from him. Let's take it to the offensive side of the ball. Is Tua starting?
We still don't know. I mean, I'm of the. I said it on Sunday when the news came out. I mean, if he can't play on Sunday, I have a hard time believing he's going to play on Thursday. They listed him as estimated. They just had a walkthrough on Monday, so they listed everything's kind of like an estimation of an injury report, and they said he would have been limited if they had a full practice. I just have a hard time. I mean, they said that there's no pain, but there's swelling, which is impacting how far he can throw. And again, just 3 extra days. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Maybe he's getting around the clock treatment. Um, but if he can't play, I mean, I think we've seen. I mean, I think we all know that the offense is better with Tua in the lineup. But if he can't play, I mean, I don't think that it changes much in this game. I think that this is a game where the Ravens defense, they've only been around for 25, 26 years, and they have a legacy of defense. And if you've watched the Ravens close this year, you've seen that the defense has actually struggled. Again, they've had a ton of injuries, and the defense hasn't been spared. They lost Marcus Peters in training camp, or right before the season started. They just lost another starting safety the last game. They have some guys who are still coming back from injuries and might not play on Thursday. So again, the past couple of games, the Ravens defense has allowed some really big plays in the pass game and in the run game. And we know that this Dolphins offense has just been starving for deep plays. And I'm almost like begging George Godsey, Charlie Fry, whoever's calling the plays, I'm almost begging them, like, just throw one deep ball to Jalen Waddle. We've seen that this Ravens defense can give up big plays. So I'm almost like, just try one. Just try it once, and they did try 2 times that I noticed in the Texans game. The one to Kirk Merritt wasn't a great ball. Merritt probably could have caught it. Another one was on Jacoby's first interception, and I think that if you look back at that play, if Eichenberg doesn't get beat so quickly, I think that that's a big play waiting to happen to Waddle, kind of on a post route down the middle, or to Gesicki coming on an over route, crossing route, kind of right to left. I mean, that was a big play waiting to happen. So I'd like to see that aggressiveness. I know that in past weeks, the coaches have pretty much said, it's tough to dial up those plays when the offensive line is struggling the way it is, but I'd still like them to at least try. But yesterday, speaking to coaches, players, they all said, we have to be. It's going to be a physical game. It's going to be a physical game. We have to bring the physicality to them. And this Dolphins offense hasn't really been known for being physical, but if they want to win, they're going to have to do that.
You touched on a few things there offensively for the Dolphins. In my opinion, I think the offensive line is starting to gel. It's starting to improve, but more so on the run game. And it's kind of disheartening or frustrating for a fan to watch us not run the ball as much as we could or should, in my opinion, because number one, you want to limit turnovers. You want to control the clock. And number three, in this game against the Ravens, you want to keep Lamar Jackson off the field, correct?
Yeah.
And you do that by running the ball and driving the clock down. And I think we're evolving as an offensive line, especially in the run game. Do you see us running the ball more Thursday and moving forward?
I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, this is still it's weird, after half a season, I'm still kind of left wondering, like, what is this offense really? What is this offense? We know that they kind of overhauled it in the past offseason to kind of fit Tua's ability and, incorporate a lot of RPO. And even when Tua isn't in the game, we've seen less RPO, but you're still seeing a lot of quick passing game. And I think that part of that is to kind of master the offensive line.
Correct.
The run game is a weird conundrum because I wrote about this after the third game, after the Raiders game. I wrote about this and the fact that the Dolphins are the worst pass blocking unit in the NFL by various metrics, by various advanced metrics. They're the worst. They've given up the most pressures by far. But if you look at ESPN's run block win rate, which is pretty much how long an offensive lineman can hold their box for 2.5 seconds, the Dolphins are like top half of the league. And it's like the weirdest thing ever because it's like the Dolphins are by metrics, they're top half in terms of run blocking, but they're bottom of the league in attempts, in yards, and they're pretty low in yards per attempt. And I know that among fans, we hear a lot about how the Dolphins have invested a lot in their offensive line, but they haven't necessarily drafted that premier running back. And I think that there are some fair questions that I'm still of the mindset that, you really build up the offensive line and you build a nice system around that. And I don't want to say plug and play, but more or less you can do that. We've seen the 49ers do that for the past couple of years. But it is a weird conundrum. But I don't think that they ran the ball as well. I mean, they didn't run the ball as well as they should have or would have liked to. But we're still seeing more now. They're sticking with it. They're not just getting rid of the running or abandoning the run in the second half, and that's important. Myles Gaskin said, not every run's going to go for 80 yards and go to the house for a touchdown. You're going to get some 3 yards, some 4 yards, but it's important to kind of keep at it so you can see how the lanes are opening. The offensive line can kind of get into a groove. And truth be told, those offensive linemen up front, they like run blocking more than pass blocking. I mean, Austin Jackson said it's always good to go forward than it is to go backward. So if they can run the ball a little bit against the Ravens, kind of get in manageable situations, manageable 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4, I think it's going to go a long way.
No, I agree wholeheartedly, and I'd like to see more of the run opportunities, especially off tackle on the right side with Robert Hunt on that side and Davis. I think they're really good on that side and in the run game. And again, you control the clock that way, right? The goal for the offense is to keep Lamar off the field and score points. And you want to limit Jacoby's pass opportunities. I think he's shown that he's not the most accurate passer in the world. His timing is not the best, but he controls the game well, right? He managed the game well. Yeah. And so I think you have to build, if Brissett is starting, it would be, in my opinion, that Godsey should build the plan around Brissett's strengths, right? And not keep trying to play the same RPO offense that was meant for Tua. And that's really been a strange phenomenon throughout this season, is that, you had Tua and the whole game plan built against, for Tua against New England, and it looked really good. And when Tua has the scripted plays, I think he really does really well in that arena. And then Brissett comes in, and he's not an RPO quarterback. He's a classic 5 to 7 step, drop back passer who reads the field and needs time. And I think, Tua's injury plays more to that than anything else.
Yeah, and again, like you said, he's more of a classic drawback. I mean, he's funny. He wears that number 14. I mean, he kind of more mirrors Ryan Fitzpatrick a bit in his build and maybe some of the schemes that you put around him. But it's tougher to do those 5-7 step drops, those longer developing pass plays when you have an offensive line that struggles. Which is why I said I don't think that we've seen as many RPOs. We're still seeing a quick game. They're still getting the ball out in 2.5 seconds, and that's the reason why you see that the average depth of the target for Tua and Jacoby, there's not much difference in there. They're both around 7.3, 7.5 yards, which is at the bottom of the NFL, and I think that's more of a byproduct of the offensive line. But again, this Ravens defensive line, they've had struggles at times getting pressure with just 4. They haven't. It's weird. Both of these defenses are kind of the same in that they blitz a lot. And then they want to blitz to apply pressure. But that number for both of them has dropped this season. And I'm really interested to see if the defense coordinator on the Ravens side actually decides to kind of dial up the blitzes, knowing that he might have an advantage on that offensive line. But again, the offensive line is going to have to do its job, because I think that there are plays to be made downfield, especially with Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki especially, I think this is a game that he could really be a focal point. Like I said, the Ravens are down Marcus Peters. They just lost another starting safety last week. So they're going to have a rookie, in there starting at safety, and kind of some other guys kind of shuffling in. So I think there are plays to be made for Mike Gesicki over the middle.
So that's funny. So how does this offense exploit that guy back there, the new the rookie safety?
Well, I mean, I think you definitely want to isolate him a little bit. We've seen at times where they kind of do these 3-by-1 bunch sets where they'll have 3 receivers on one side and they'll have Gesicki isolated on the other. I mean, we saw that in the Texans game where they got him isolated on a cornerback. They threw a jump ball, back shoulder fade, and Gesicki was able to come down with it one-handed. So doing things like that where you can kind of easily isolate him, kind of use motion and whatnot to see pre-snap whether they're doing man or not, and then again. When you see that, really target him. I thought that the play I was referencing before on Jacoby's first interception, it was a really good job of kind of using both of Jalen and Gesicki's skill sets together. They used Jalen's speed to kind of influence the safeties and kind of keep them at bay, keep them honest and backpedaling in their kind of their deep deep shells where Gesicki was able to come over the middle. And, we've seen him exploit the middle of the field so much. So again, using Jalen Waddle to kind of influence the defense and kind of open things up for other guys, specifically Gesicki, I think that'll be really important and kind of a good way to get Gesicki incorporated in the offense.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there with Gesicki and Shaheen. He caught a pass in this past weekend that really opened my eyes. It was a crossing route, I think 5 to 7 yard crossing route, but his yards after catch acceleration was really impressive.
Yeah.
More so than Gesicki, I think, and that was exciting to see. I think I made this comment yesterday that the Dolphins might have the most talented tight end room, at least in the top 3 tight end rooms in the NFL, and it's kind of the strength of their team, their passing game, when they can get it to them. And I know they've invested a lot in Fuller, who's pretty much been, non-existent all year, and who knows when he's coming back. And then Parker's out on the IR. So, you got Matt Collins and Isaiah Ford. I think Kirk Merritt was elevated this past week and had a couple catches. So really, it's Waddle and the tight ends, correct?
Yeah, I mean, usually, if it was any other team, I would say this is a game where you kind of want to spread the Ravens out because they have had so many injuries in the secondary. But just given the injuries that the Dolphins have had at wide receiver, I'd say this is definitely a game where you want to incorporate those tight ends. Patrick Queen, who's a second-year linebacker on the Ravens from LSU, he's had his ups and downs in coverage and kind of play recognition. So they've kind of tried to settle him down by kind of moving him from the middle linebacker spot to the weak side linebacker spot. He's played a little better, but again, he's still susceptible to big plays in the passing game. So whether it's Gesicki or whether it's getting a guy like Savon Ahmed or Myles Gaskin kind of line up on him, I think that there are plays to be made there. I think that over the course of this season, we've seen a lot of those 12 personnel of 1 running back, 2 tight ends, or 22 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Especially in this game against the Ravens, where they try to be physical, bring those tight ends in, but they also use them in the passing game as well.
And I think, having Gaskin and Ahmed flash out of the backfield on wheel routes is kind of like that, running back, channel out of the backfield running in the flat. I think, to your point, Patrick Queen is not too good at recognizing those plays and hasn't been all season. And I think there's opportunity for the offense to run those plays as much as we don't like to see them when we want to see passes down the field to Waddle, as you mentioned earlier. I think that weak side of the field might be open for some of those, halfback passes. I'm going to take a second here. I want to give a shout out to TD Finstock. He was supposed to be on the show today, but had some personal issues. I think he's headed to the hospital. He had a family member that's not feeling too well. So I just want to give a shout out to TD and say our prayers here at Clock Blockers are with you, brother, and hope everything's going to be all right. So I wanted to touch something, Daniel, and switch gears here a little bit. And we were talking on the show last week and yesterday. There's, the past month, we've really, on this show and many others, had a lot of static. And there's a divisive 2 sides, to the fan base here. The 2-in-ears, they like to call them, and the Watson fanatics, and I think folks that just want to see a change at quarterback. But my question to you here, and my point, I think, and I want to hear your take on this, is that when Flores and Greer were brought in, or Flores more so and Greer elevated, they presented Mr. Ross with a 5-year plan. And then we're in year 3.5 of that plan. Last year was, I think, a year that they overachieved and really maybe got some wins that maybe they didn't deserve, but we took them anyway, a 10-6 record. And so it kind of inflated our expectations for this season, especially after what would be perceived as a favorable offseason that Greer managed through the draft and free agent signings. So we got a 2-win season after the halfway point of the season. My question to you is that, in my opinion, I don't think Greer or Flores are on the hot seat at this point. Now, if they lose out, who knows? Yeah. But I think Ross is giving them the 5-year plan that they presented and having some patience with that. Would that be a good assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, throughout the 7-game losing streak, I know a lot of people were kind of calling for Brian Flores' head and saying he should be on the hot seat. He should be fired. I was always of the mindset that I thought that he deserved the right to finish out this season, given his track record and last season. Whether you want to call it a fluke, I don't call it a fluke. You gotta earn every win, every game, and that's what they did. They earned 10 wins regardless of how it came. They got to 10 wins. So just given that, I thought that he earned the benefit of the doubt. I was kind of a different mindset with Chris Greer because he's been here since 2016. He's been in the organization for a lot longer.
Right.
And some of the clear kind of deficiencies with this team you could solely place on his plate, and said he really dropped the ball in some of these draft picks, some of the free agent misses and whatnot. But I know a lot of people were fair to point out that Brian Flores also has some say in these personnel decisions as well. He always says himself. He says we talk about these decisions all the time. So I think that it's a fair point to say, hey, it's not just Greer. Flo is also kind of giving his input on this as well. I agree with you. I think that barring a just complete breakdown the second half of the season, both these guys will probably be back. I mean, if there was anyone to maybe get the boot, I would say maybe it's Greer. But again, people make fair points that it's hard to bring in a GM with an incumbent coach because that new GM usually wants to build build with the coach of this choosing.
Right.
So I think that it's kind of we're all in or we're all out. And that includes Tua, honestly. We're all in those three: Greer, Flo, Tua, or they're all out. And I think that I thought it's been kind of tough to evaluate this team as a whole, just because Tua's missed so many games. I mean, he's missed 4 games. He was knocked out of another one. So it's tough to really evaluate Tua and this entire team as a whole. We had a lot of bad breaks. Everyone has injuries, but this team has had some really tough breaks in terms of Tua, Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, just guys being in and out the lineup. But again, barring a complete breakdown, just coming up short in the final half of the season, and if maybe Ross gets the feeling that this team is giving up on Flo, just kind of been thrown out there. I don't think that they've given up. I think they're still competing. I think there's a lot of pride in that locker room, unless they just completely kind of mail it in. Then you maybe think of a coaching change, a GM change, but I don't think that we're going to see that at this rate.
I wholeheartedly agree. And you got to analyze also that Greer, even though he's been with the organization, it's his first, 3 years now as being the man, right? As having the total GM job. He was sharing it with Tannenbaum and Flores, beforehand. And but now he's the man, and he's tied to the hip to Flores and Tua, to your point. And that was part of their plan, right? They recognized and identified through the draft their franchise quarterback. We can debate, I don't want to debate that anymore.
Yeah, I'm done with the Tua debate. I'm like,
we're not going down that road.
Yeah.
But Tua is their man, right? So they stuck their flag in the sand with Tua, and they had a plan to build around him, on the outside. And we can talk about how we probably should have drafted higher picks on the offensive line than they did, but they still spent second rounders, third rounders.
Yeah,
right?
they've invested the draft capital. I mean, we can't complain. They've been trying.
Right.
Whether they got the right guys, whether they've been developing those guys the right way, those are fair questions. But nobody can question that the Dolphins have, in fact, invested a lot in building that offensive line.
Correct. And so that leads me to my point. So how much do you really put on the coaching staff and Flores and the culture he's built? And I'm going to ask you another question after this, but there comes a time when you don't see the development of all these draft picks, right? And that falls on the coaching staff, right? So you see the record at 2-7, and you see maybe not the development you'd like to see out of a lot of these draft picks. When does Ross lose his, patience?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, kind of starting with the coaching point. Yeah, it's a really fair point that, Brian Flores may not have surrounded himself with inexperienced coaching staff, a coaching staff that has, maybe that can kind of really command, I don't want to say command the respect of the group, but really has that experience and has been through a lot of different things. I mean, you have Josh Boyer, he's kind of a first-time defensive coordinator. You've got Jean-Pierre, the offensive line coach. It's the first time. He's 36 years old. He's a fairly young guy in terms of being a offensive line coach. And when you see that a lot of the guys, I mean, Austin Jackson played he was here last year. He had some struggles early on, but I think that he kind of, from what I've read and what I've been told, he kind of started to kind of turn things around until the injury, until he was sidelined by injury for a bit. But he's really regressed. Jesse Davis he's not necessarily a young guy, but he's really regressed. I mean, the only guy you can say has maybe improved is Robert Hunt, and people still say he's a better right tackle than right guard. So there are fair questions to ask. The offensive line wasn't this bad last year. I mean, it wasn't this bad. So it's fair to ask, are we properly developing these players and putting them in the best position to succeed? Now to the Ross question, again, if Ross, if the wheels fall off the wagon the second half of the season, and you get the sense that this team is not behind flow, maybe you do make a move. But if not, I think that you might, they have a lot of money to spend in the offseason. So they're going to be in a position to kind of fix some of these issues. They're going to have not their first round pick, but the 49ers first round pick. And, it's looking like that might be a top 10 pick as well. So they're going to have a first round pick. It looks like it's going to be pretty high. They're going to have the resources to try to get this thing fixed. I think a big part of it is going to be whether Tua can be the guy and the quarterback that many believe he can be. He's going to have to stay healthy, but the Dolphins are also going to have to surround him with the right infrastructure. They're going to have to get a solid offensive line. They're going to have to get some reliable, and I mean healthy and reliable pass catchers. I think the defense still might need some tweaks in the offseason, but again, they're going to have the resources to fix some of these issues that we've seen this year. And if that duo, that trio comes back, and the head coach, the quarterback, and the GM, I think that you do enter a fourth season on the hot seat, because this is going to be the season where you really, really expect them and demand that playoff appearances in this team's future.
And I made this comment yesterday. Going into the offseason, I believe we have the second most cap space, and with a cap that's going to be elevated as well. So going into that fourth year, Greer and Flores knowing it's a win now year, I contend that they're going to make some pretty heavy spending in the free agent market and some impactful spending. I know there's some attractive free agents, especially offensive line free agents, available during this offseason. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the best teams or the best organizations, the best franchises in the NFL, they built through the draft.
Correct.
I mean, whether that's the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, the New Orleans Saints. I mean, they build through the draft consistently, and they're not just throwing out money and overpaying for free agents. But given that the Dolphins are in this position where they haven't drafted and developed players as well as those organizations, I mean, you are going to have to make up for it in free agency and spending that cap. I mean, they got to use that money. They can't sit on it and twiddle their thumbs and go into what would be a must-win, must-make the playoff season.
Right.
So yeah, I do expect them to be active and trying to patch up some of these issues, across the board.
Yeah, I agree. And think about it this way, long term, they make the playoffs next year, right? Let's say hypothetically they spend well, their current draft picks that they've drafted over the past 3 years continue to develop and start playing to a level where it creates a playoff atmosphere for this team, and they make the playoffs next season. So now we're in the situation where we're renegotiating Flores' contract, Greer's contract, and they get some long-term deals, right? And that's my point, is that they've built all this draft capital. They've followed their plan that they presented to Ross 3.5 years ago, and now they've set themselves up in the free agent market to win in the fourth year to set themselves up for a contract, right?
Yeah, you would think, and I think we'd have a lot of mixed. I mean, if it's coming off a playoff appearance, I think most fans would probably, the most kind of blow everything up fans would kind of ease up. Obviously, winning cures everything, and a playoff appearance would cure a lot. But again, that's going to be incumbent on so much. So many things are going to have to go right. They're going to have to.
But they've put themselves in the position to make it have to happen.
They have, but you could say they have also put themselves in that position. I mean, they've been acquiring draft capital since the 2019 teardown. So they've been doing this for multiple years. I think that still regardless, this third season has been a massive disappointment. And I think that that taste is not going to easily leave a lot of people's mouths. But again, if they can use a lot of that cap space to patch those issues, get some more development from the young players, specifically Tua, and make the playoffs, a lot of people are gonna kind of maybe forgive this kind of lost season.
So let me ask you this. I got a question here from the chat box. Someone thinks Sway 2387 asked Daniel why it took to week 8 to start playing good defense. Have they really, or is it really just did they do well against a 1-7 team?
Yeah, I mean, you got to take everything against the Texans with a grain of salt. I mean, they're playing a offensive line that's probably just as bad as the Dolphins, a quarterback who hadn't played. Tyrod has had success against the Dolphins, but he hadn't played since week 2. I think he was very hesitant to run. He missed a lot of passes, and the Dolphins defense played a role in that. But again, I think that if you kind of look at that Texans game, and you look at the first 2.5 quarters of the Bills game, I mean, there's a lot to be encouraged about. We've talked a lot about, are they playing man more? Are they playing man less? Are they playing zone more? Are they not blitzing as much? Regardless, they're applying more pressure. They're turning the ball over in bunches, which I think is probably really, really encouraging because their defense was built on that. They're built on third down defense and turning the ball over, and red zone defense especially. And the red zone defense, they kept the Texans out of the end zone 4 times when they entered the red area. To get a little better on third down. And, when you turn the ball over 4 times, I mean, you're always happy with that. So I think that there are some things to be kind of excited and encouraged about. Whether, we're going to see how much of that was fugazi or not on Thursday. But again, I think that it's interesting. It's a good matchup in some areas for the Dolphins. I think that they are going to perform well in some areas.
No, I agree with you. And I'm kind of surprised, not to talk about the Texans too much, that Tyrod Taylor was given the start. I didn't know if David Mills was injured or not, but he had seemed to be playing pretty well, and the team, playing well with him at the helm. And I know that Tyrod Taylor, is a veteran and has played well against the Dolphins in the past, but man, he looked rusty. Didn't look like his old Tyrod self, who always lights up. I think he's 5-2 lifetime against the Dolphins with like a 119 passer rating. So, he's historically had success against whatever iteration of Dolphins defense is on the field. But he just didn't look like himself yesterday. You still got some time to continue, or you're good?
I got a little bit of time. We got practice a little later today, so I got a little bit more time. But I can stick with you for a little bit.
All right, you tell me when you got to jump because I'm having a good time, and I hope you are too. And
me too.
And there's some great questions from the comment box. But I wanted to ask you, touching back on Coach Flo, and you're ingrained in the team a lot more than any of us are here in fan world. Coach Flo comes from the Belichick coaching tree, right? And, there's a very demonstrative coaching style in my way or the highway type of culture, old school, right? You would label it old school. And I don't know, it's in my opinion, whether it's right or not, this is why Jim Caldwell's not here. It's why Dan Gehling is no longer here, is that, it's got to be Coach Flores's way, and that's why he's had these young offensive coordinators now, these young assistant coaches that he brought along 3 years ago, and it's kind of cultivated, these coaches. But he doesn't like to be rivaled in authority in the locker room, right?
I mean, those are really fair points, especially with kind of jettisoning a lot of the more veteran coaches. I mean, obviously, Chan Gailey, I think that you kind of know that he had a background with Fitzpatrick, and he kind of really favored Fitzpatrick. So obviously that was a move that kind of had to be made. But when you look at so many of the young guys who are, they're all good guys. Talking to them, they're really great guys. They're hard workers. But it is reasonable to question. should he bring in more established assistants, more veteran assistants who maybe have some coaching experience, who have years and years of coordinator experience? I don't want to compare Flo to John Harbaugh, the Ravens coach, but one thing that I have been impressed by Harbaugh over the years is his ability to kind of adapt to not only his players but his coaching staff. He'll bring in young guys, he'll bring in old guys. I think early on he did rely on a lot of veteran guys. I mean, he had David Culley with him for several years. He made him assistant head coach. And I really respected the fact that Harbaugh has been so open-minded in terms of assembling his staff. It's not just just kind of bringing a bunch of young guys who will do everything he says. He brings it's a real collaborative approach in terms of getting guys from different backgrounds, getting young guys, getting old guys, and they are very fair questions in Miami whether Flores has surrounded himself with the right coaching staff to not only develop players but kind of lead this team. But again, I've kind of been of the mindset, whether, regardless of the Belichick comparisons, talking about the Belichick tree, I've always been of the mindset that, whatever you think about him, coaching cures everything. And nobody says anything if you're winning. Nobody questions Bill Belichick because he's winning. So if Brian Flores is winning and he was leading a 6-3 team, I mean, there would be no questions about anything. But again, yeah, I think that regardless of how this season ends, I think everything has to be kind of questioned. You have to go to the drawing board with everything. And that includes, Flores' kind of composition of the coaching staff and who he has put on the staff.
Let me ask you something. That brings up a good question for me to ask you. Do you think Flores is evolving as a coach?
It's tough to say. It's tough to say. I think this losing streak has kind of been humbling in a sense, because it's not like 2019 where, hey, you kind of walked into this job knowing, hey, the first year is going to be tough. I do think that it has kind of humbled him a bit. It has forced him to kind of take a step back and kind of question just the way you kind of go about things. And he said it as well, when you lose and you can kind of continue to lose, I mean, it forces you to question and kind of rethink everything that you're doing to try to find a way to win. So I think that maybe he's grown in that aspect. But he doesn't like to talk too much about himself. So it's tough to say, hey, have you really grown in this way? Have you grown? He's not one to kind of look a big picture like that. He always says, I'm focused on today and them day to day. So that's usually how his mindset is.
One thing I appreciate about Coach Flo is that he's not overly demonstrative one way or another, right? I think he's very confident. The way I perceive him as a confident coach, believes in himself, believes in his plan. And you kind of see that on the sideline, right? Like he's not overly emotional unless, he's going after a referee in Cincinnati or a different player in Cincinnati. But that was kind of funny a couple of years ago. But yeah. But I think it shows me that he believes in his plan long term, and he's not going to let these little things, these little roadblocks, deter him from that plan. Is that fair?
Yeah, and it's tough to kind of stick. He said that a lot. We have to stay the course, and it's tough to do that. It's tough for fans to do that when the team is losing 7 straight games. But I think he's been consistent with his messaging to the team. I don't think that the team has given up on him. I think that they've really supported him. I mean, you hear Jerome Baker after the Jacksonville game say, he goes out of his way to say, we believe in Coach Flo. We believe in his vision and his plan. So I think that he still has that locker room. They respect him. Again, I think it's fair to question kind of getting rid of a lot of more veteran guys some of the veteran guys like Calvin Noir, Bobby McCain, surrounding yourself with a very, very inexperienced coaching staff. I think those are all fair questions, but I think he is a guy that demands and kind of garners that respect from his players. I think that they're still behind him. They're still staying the course and they're staying consistent, with that message in that locker room.
So let me ask you one final question before I let you go here, because I know I've taken up a lot of your time. And you got
I was going to say, Steven usually gets me for 30 minutes, but I gave you an hour.
Man, and I sincerely appreciate that because, man, this is my first time hosting this on my own. So I appreciate you big time.
That's no problem at all.
So we're halfway through the season. We've got the Ravens on Thursday night, which, we're up against it. But then after that, we have the Jets, the Panthers, the Giants, and then a bye week. I mean, it's fair to say that, we can put up a good game Thursday night, lose regardless, or win, who knows, any given Thursday. But those are 3 winnable games after that. Then we go into the bye week with the Jets at home. So, the rest of the schedule up until January 2nd at Tennessee, looks pretty favorable, right? On paper.
On paper, I mean, yeah, I've been saying on paper a lot this season because on paper the Dolphins were not supposed to be 2-7. You would say they are winnable games, but I'll go back to we all thought the Colts was a winnable game. We thought the Jags was a winnable game. We thought the Falcons was a winnable game, and look where we all are now. But yes, we all kind of knew that the second half of this schedule really eased up. The Dolphins played one of the they played one of the toughest first half schedules in the NFL. So getting the Jets twice, getting the Panthers, getting the Giants, those are winnable games. Those are opportunities, and that's where I say, if you can kind of come on the other side of this and maybe finish 5-12, maybe 6-11, I think you feel a little bit better about the way the season ends. Again, season isn't going to end in a playoff appearance. It's still overall going to be a disappointment. But if you can kind of see the progression of Tua and some of these younger players over the second half of the season and get those wins, maybe you go into the offseason with a little more confidence. Kind of in the same way that 2019, they started losing their first 7 or 5 games, whatever it was, and then they were able to kind of win some games down the stretch, finish with 5 wins. Again, the season would still be a disappointment, but you kind of go into the offseason with a little more confidence and a little more mojo.
And to that point, Flores is kind of a second half coach. Like historically, we've seen the past 2 years, his teams have excelled after October, and we can see a favorable schedule. So I'm a positive guy, Daniel.
I try to be positive too. I'll call out something when I got to call it out, but I'm always positive too. I've said, hey, maybe they can. I think that there are definitely some opportunities to get some wins in the second half of the schedule. And again, I think that a lot of the second half of the season is really about Tua and those young guys. I mean, really Tua. If Tua can stay healthy, and he plays well in the second half of the season, you feel so much better about the trajectory of this team going forward.
So I mean, it takes a lot less muscle work to smile than it does to frown. So that's why I'm always positive. But I mean, we can say there's 7 wins in the bag, going into that January 2nd game at Tennessee, and then it gets interesting, not knowing, the rest of the standings and how the AFC is shaping up. But at least you give yourself an outside chance, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'll end it with the flow. Flowism. You gotta take it day by day.
I hear you, man. So, final question: what's the expectation Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. The line was like 7 after Sunday's game. So
it was 7.5 last night.
Yeah, and I'm not a betting man, but if I was a betting man, I would kind of hammer the 7.5 Ravens. But again, I do think it's going to be a little closer than most people think. I mean, those Thursday night turnaround games are. Thursday night turnaround, 3 days preparation. It's tough on both teams. The Dolphins kind of have the home advantage in terms of not having to travel or anything. So I think that early on it is going to be a little bit close. If the defense can force a turnover or 2, this game could be a little closer than most people think. But again, I think we'll see maybe like a 28-15 Ravens win with a late touchdown to kind of give them some breathing room.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I just want to see a cleaner game than what they had against the Texans on Sunday. I want to see them be competitive and, have a chance in the fourth quarter. That's all we can ask for, I think.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Daniel, it's been awesome talking with you the past hour. I surely appreciate you.
Likewise, I'm having fun, Cameron.
Yeah, man. And we'll see you next Tuesday and have fun out of practice today.
I appreciate it. You take care.
All right. Have a good day.
See you.
All right, that was Daniel from the Miami Herald, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I put the link up in the chat box if anyone wants to come on and join me. We'll do this for a little bit longer here. Joe Lee, I see you're in the chat box. Shout out. I didn't give our sponsor, Tail Greeter, the shout out to begin the show. I'm new at this. So tailgreeter.com. Nick was at the CEO, Nick Acker, was at our tailgate this weekend and just blown away at the fandom and what everybody brought to the table here down in South Florida. So I appreciate everybody in the chat box this morning, everybody who came out. Chef Jew, man, came out. Jolie came out, man. A bunch of y'all came out, and surely appreciate you. So hit me up. I believe I showed the link here. Get on there, and I'll bring you up on the show, and we can chat some about the Dolphins or whatever else you'd like to talk about this morning. Jolie, come on, babe. Let me get at you up here. Jolie, how you doing this morning?
Good, Cameron. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Stephen D. Need a little mental break this morning. He says he's sleeping, but I don't believe him. He's probably in the back, watching the show. Like, hey, man, he had a good segment with Daniel.
Right? He's probably testing you out to see, if he can get you in another one.
Yeah, right. It's all good. I'm happy to do it for him. Jolie, what'd you think about the weekend's festivities?
Oh man, it was so much fun. I mean, I've never been to a Miami fan weekend, so that was pretty cool. Saturday was insane. I didn't believe it. It was so many people from so many other states, even countries. That was such a great experience. I mean, I knew nobody there until I kind of found like Pam and Andreas and obviously Steven, yourself. But it was really cool kind of meeting you guys, because obviously we know each other from here, but it's really nice to be able to go ahead and just meet you guys in person. And Pam really is like the mama bear.
Oh, she is, man.
Dolphins fans community. But other than that, it was so much fun. So much fun.
Man, I really appreciate you coming up and introducing yourself to us. Man, it was such an awesome, event Saturday night, and then the game on Sunday, man. But we had a good time, right, Jolie?
Oh man, it was so great. It was so great meeting so many people, even the fans of the year. I mean, that was so awesome. Orange Beard guy was great.
Yeah, Mark Angelo, shout out to NorCal, Dolphin fan. Hope he's listening this morning. And then Ian Berger, Big E, who was the fan of the year for the NFL, was out at the event as well. Man, it was just great to see everybody.
Even the Mexico, I didn't even know we had such a large following in Mexico like that. That was insane.
Man,
I mean,
shout out those guys.
They're like 60 deep.
68 folks who travel from all over Mexico and Central America. So, I was talking to those guys last night. It's just not Mexico they're from. They have fans that come from Nicaragua and Costa Rica and El Salvador. And it was really cool to see, man.
Yeah, it really is, because it kind of just shows you it's kind of like how music and sports, they can bring us all together. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you are, what you believe in. At the end of the day, we all have one goal, and that's for the Dolphins to win it all. We're going to get there. We just have to have a little more patience. That's all. But it's really beautiful. It was great meeting so many phenomenal people.
Right.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree with you more. Hey, good morning, Von954. Good to see you last night out at Bo Campers for our Monday night discussion. But Jolie, let me ask you, what was your take on Sunday's game, and what do you expect on Thursday?
Well, good morning, Vaughn. Good morning, Chef Jill. Good morning, everybody. For Sunday, what just happened? So for me personally, let's not lie, it was an ugly win. But because they were not good teams, it kind of made it even. It was, the baseline was so low that it just kind of made the game even. So who was not gonna suck more? It was really the premise of this entire game. But I really did like to see our defense kind of went back to last year. That was one thing that I was looking for. Can we continue for our defense to go back to that type of style of defense? I think Coach Flo is trying to pretend like he's not calling those defensive plays because he wants his new guys to learn. But you can tell that whenever he's in it, that defense goes right back to last year's defense. So I think he's just trying to not take the credit in that aspect and trying to let his guy, learn from it and things like that. But I really did like that our defense was was able to do what they were able to do. I liked how Baker was able to have that presence of mind to come back in, establish himself, and take the interception. Most people would have probably not have done that, but I like that he was able to do that. I loved, my man, Gesicki. Honestly, I think he's one of the brightest stars that we have that really could be a foundational piece for us for the future. And that's something that I know that we can definitely build upon. So we had some really great pieces. We were able to come together. We were able to overcome some of the difficulties. But at the end of the day, even though it was not pretty, love to win. You can't knock a win. You can learn from it. And even from this one, I think we have a lot to learn from. But overall, it was a great experience.
So Thursday night, what do we have to do to contain Jackson?
Well, that's gonna that's gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be a little bit more challenging. But like I said, if the defense stays how they are in the same course and build upon the last couple of weeks, I mean, they've been doing it consistently for the last 3-4 weeks. I think that we can contain him. I know he's a mobile quarterback. We're not as good with the mobile quarterbacks, but we need to throw the kitchen sink at him. We need to go after him the entire game. We have young defensive players. Let's use them. Let's not drop back Jalen Phillips. Let's let him go after the quarterback, him and Agba. And I think that's something that's going to be a little bit more different. Because if we go to that cover 0, that's where we're going to be able to bring all that pressure to the quarterback. And even though, yes, he's going to roll out, he's going to make some phenomenal plays, he's going to beat you here and there. We did it to the Bills. And look at the Bills only got 3 points for 2 3/4 quarters. So we could definitely do it. I think we can contain him. And our defense is going to have to lead the way for sure.
It's funny. Your take is to really pressure and keep the pressure coming on Jackson and make him scramble. Where, Daniel, the Miami Herald beat reporter for the Dolphins, is under the opinion that perhaps maybe continue to set the edges with Agba and Phillips. And I agree with you. I don't want to see Phillips dropping back in coverage. But they're doing a really good job, especially Phillips, has progressed and you see the development, moving forward with him. And I'm excited to watch him continue to develop, but him containing, to continue setting an edge and getting pressure on Jackson, keeping him in the pocket, making him a passer. I think, and playing that man-on-man coverage in the backfield, I think is key to our success.
Absolutely, because you look at some of his other games, he's not great at the pocket, but he's good enough to make it happen. So if we can contain him and keep him in the pocket, we can definitely make that difference to allow for us to be able to, take the rest of the players.
All right, Jolie, before I let you go and get Big John up here into the chat, what's your prediction for Thursday?
My prediction, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I don't think it's going to be low either. I'm going to go 24-21 Dolphins.
Hey, you heard it here first. Jolie with the Dolphins win 24-21. Jolie, it's great to talk to you this morning. I appreciate you taking the time to get on Clock Blockers this morning, and we'll probably see you tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we'll probably see. I'll try to make it out there, but thank you so much, guys. Good morning again. Hi, TD. Good morning to you. And I can't wait to see what Gesicki has for it because I know he's going to have like 18 more of those phenomenal catches.
All right, Jolie, you have a great day today.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
All right, bye-bye. Hey, John, how you doing this morning?
Going on, buddy?
Hey, how are you, bud?
Hey, quick shout out to 1234 Eps. I hope you get well soon, brother. And TD, I hope your family gets well soon too.
Yeah, man. Thank you for saying that, John. I was about to say 1234 Eps. I know is struggling with the COVID, and it looks like it's hit him pretty hard. So we're hoping you are doing all the right things to get better, and we need to see you back on here soon. John, how's your day going?
It's going good. Hopefully the Dolphins will pull out a win Thursday.
So what do we got to do to pull out the win?
Question is,
yeah. Go ahead,
I think
John.
Tua has to play first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
I think he definitely has to, throw the ball a lot more. The key, to be honest though, the key to winning Thursday night's game, it would be keeping Lamar Jackson off the field as much as you can. Now, whether you want to do that with mostly, a run offense, I don't know. I mean, I don't really trust Gaskin. I don't really trust his hands that well. He does cough up the ball a lot. And to be honest, it's becoming a major issue with this team is the turnovers. I think we had 5 turnovers against Houston on Sunday. So, I mean, what is your take on whether we should go after a running back in the free agency market?
I think it has some more to do with the offensive line and scheme, right? Like this team has shown that number one, they're all behind Tua, and and I agree, continue developing Tua once he's back on the field and to his strengths, and he's an RPO quarterback, and I think Gaskin and Ahmed are perfect complements to Tua. Because this offense isn't built around a bell cow, 3 yards at a cloud of dust type offense. It's Tua's strength is accuracy and timing and getting the ball out quick, with quick reads, and that's what he does well. So I think, to draft a running back that's going to run between the tackles and up the middle, like I mentioned, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, I don't think that's what they're building this offensive around. As much as we wanted to see Najee Harris or Javonte Williams or Michael Carter, heck, I was even I wanted Khalil Herbert from Virginia Tech, who's doing a great job being Montgomery's backup in Chicago. But I think Gaskin and Ahmed are played admirable, and I think they could play better if I mentioned this earlier on John's when John was on that they need to run the ball more and control the clock more, and you said it earlier. The key to winning Thursday is to keep Lamar Jackson off the field, and I think you do that by running.
Do you think if the Dolphins don't hit free agency hard in the offseason, they pretty much given up and going after one? Because the big mates are a lot of this available in the free agency market, and I'm just scared that they're going to want to spend all that money on Watson and not draft some of this talent.
No, I can't see them doing that. Let's take Watson out of the equation because, there's a lot to be settled from that side, from Watson's side of things, legally, right? So until he's actually eligible, in Ross's eyes, Ross allegedly wanted to have the 22 suit settled before a trade was consummated. At least that was the rumor. Until that's done, then I can't take Watson as a serious option for this team. So I'm not even going to talk or think about Watson. And I think you're in the same boat as I am. I want to see this team continue to build around Tua, and give him the chance to develop into the QB1 that you drafted him to be. To your question, and I mentioned this earlier, is that I think the Dolphins have the second most draft or free agent spending money available, cap room, this offseason, and the cap will be elevated as well. And I think you're going to see them really go after some high-ticket free agents to complement the draft picks that they've made over the past 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good offensive line pieces to go after, and that's what would be my primary focus aside from, signing Gesicki to a big contract. What's your take on Gesicki this offseason?
Man, he's in my eyes, he's a top 5 tight end in this league, and he has shown the ability to be an every down tight end because he doesn't necessarily play the traditional tight end position. But what is a traditional tight end nowadays? I think he's an offensive asset, and he is one of the top 3 offensive assets on this team. And you can't let somebody like that walk. You pay him, right? But on the flip side, On the flip side, though, John, they drafted this kid from Boston College last year, Hunter Long, I believe his name is, and he's got the same skill set that Gesicki does, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. If I had a prediction model, I think they tag Gesicki, and I think you're going to see
which is the worst thing that they could do.
Yeah, probably. But it kind of falls in line with the game plan that Flores and Greer has that we talked about earlier. It'll be year 4 of their 5-year plan. There'll be an obviously win now, playoff or get fired type mindset. And so they don't really know they could probably allocate the tag to Gesicki and use the money elsewhere, to bring in assets for this team.
Just touching back, unfortunately, I'm not a Tua supporter. I was actually preaching for Watson or Rodgers in our off season last year, and I just think that Tua, he's a great kid. He's an absolutely great kid. He has a great heart, but we need a beast at quarterback, and I just don't see him being the playmaker that Rodgers or Watson or that a lot of quarterbacks in the league now. If you need to go, like I said this before, toe-to-toe, blow for blow with other quarterbacks, I don't see Tua getting it done. His reads are skeptical at best. His decision-making, same thing. But at the same time, if we between arm, his mobility, and I think we'd have the best quarterback. But unfortunately, Tua does have a lot of these drawbacks, and I know, I know a lot of people are putting it on the offensive line, and the offensive line, which is gelling right now, is a problem. But I just play calling around Tua, and it's very because Tua's capabilities at quarterback position.
It's interesting. You make fair points, and it's great observations. And I've never seen a quarterback divide a fan base as much as Tua has. It's pretty amazing to see. TD Finstock says because he's not a good QB. Let me ask you, John, real quick here. Do you think Tua has had enough time to show us who he is? John, you still there? All right. I think we lost John here. Hey, if anybody wants to come up here and join me for the day here for the next few minutes, I'll be running this. If not, I'll just give you a few more of my takes, and then we might wrap this up. But anybody want to jump on, please do. Let me see. John, you there? Yeah, I think John's having some difficulties here. I'm gonna put the link here in the chat box, and you guys come up and join me, man. TD, man, I hope everything's going well with your family there. I know you had some issues, man, but I was missing you today, brother, because I wanted to see you on the show today. TD loves Tua. Hey, man. He's not a bad quarterback either, and I'll agree with that either. I think we haven't had the opportunity to see Tua enough on the field to see who he is, to properly evaluate him. That being said, your best ability is availability, and if he continues not being available, there's how much longer do you hold up this team for Tua to evaluate him? Hey, and TD's on here, man. Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm in the car right now. Me and my wife taking turns on shifts in the hospital.
Man, my prayers are with you, brother. I hope everything's going to come out okay. I without getting too personal, I just, we're all with you and hope everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We already believe that anyway, so we'll always have that type of faith. But, yeah, just dealing with this, man. But I'm glad I can still at least hear some Dolphins content, keep my mind in the right place. But great show this morning, though, man. But no, I'm saying Tua's not a bad quarterback. He's just not a good quarterback either, in my opinion. So
Hey, I just asked a good question. I don't know if you heard me. How much longer do you give Tua and this franchise? Before the sands of the hourglass run out on him, man. Like his best of ability is availability. And me, like I'm a Tua guy. You drafted him for a reason. But if you can't be on the field, like how much longer do you hold up this franchise?
Well, his hourglass ran out a while back. No, he's done in Miami, and there's several reasons why. Tua is going to continue to improve, and he's going to continue to be, and I think he's going to end up being a good quarterback, but good isn't good enough in this NFL. I always pose this to people. I say, if we got an offensive line just as good as the best team in the NFL, and our defense is just as good as the best team in the NFL, and our wide receiving core and running game is just as good as the best teams in the NFL, are you going to be playing that best team and your quarterback's the better quarterback? And there's probably 15 guys in the league that now and even in the future that Tua just will not be better than because he has physical limitations. So
in your mind, what are those physical limitations, TD?
Those physical limitations is his ability to improvise. When the play breaks down, be able to brush off the pressure and make plays anyway on a consistent basis. Every quarterback makes them, but it's a matter of how many. Like, so say Tua makes 2 big plays in a game with his legs, getting out of pressure. Some of these other quarterbacks are making 6, 7, 8 a game.
Mm-hmm. So back to your hypothetical, if we put Tua behind the best offensive line, and I think did TD just drop off? Come back on, TD, if you can, because I want to continue asking you some questions if you have the time, brother. What's Frank CC? TD in, I am out, and you're letting this coaching staff manipulate your thinking on this availability. He is looking to play, but this coaching staff is holding him out. This staff also busted his ribs. Man, that's funny. Yo, Cam, where did you get that sweatshirt? So, Fins Up 74, shout out to you, brother. You go to dirtysportswear.com. That's who produces all of the hats and the gear for East 32 Dolphins tailgate. And for anybody else, whatever you need, Polo, I'm going to have you on here in a second. So hold on, brother. But anything you need, this sweatshirt's included, will be available at the tailgate Thursday night against the Ravens and again against Carolina in a couple weeks. But you also go online, go to dirtysportswear.com. You can find it online there or call the contact number that's on the website and just ask them for a Dolphin sweatshirt. Easy as that. Polo, how you doing this morning?
Hey, what's going on, Cameron?
How you doing, my man?
I just want to say you're having a great show right now.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. It's fun, it's different, and I know this is Steven's gig, and he needed to clear his head a little bit and get some sleep. He's had a rough 4 or 5 days, and he's going to have a rough another 3 or 4 days. So I just did him a solid and got up here and did my best.
So about the Tua situation, you asked how long would he stay here?
I asked, how much time, do you give him? Does this team remain patient with him? He's in year 2.5, right? Year 2, and how much time do you give him?
I feel like this is a 2-answer type of question because it all depends on how Greer, he already made an attempt to get Watson to save his job, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends how the Watson situation go down. And if Greer is still the GM this offseason, say hypothetically we get a new one, if he thinks Tua could still be salvageable in this league, then, it all depends on who is the GM and how the Watson situation go. If the new GM wants Tua to stay, then he'll still have about 2-3 years left. Yeah.
So, being the first round draft pick, I think it's a 5-year rookie contract. 4 of those years are guaranteed, and he gets a signing bonus. So they're clearly invested in Tua from a financial standpoint, from the game plan that Flores and Greer presented to Ross. They drafted their franchise quarterback in Tua. They made the decision to make Tua their franchise quarterback. And so, you know, like we always say, the best ability is availability. But you still, I think, have to give that man the time, right? I mean, I'm really caught between a fence right here because, you know, you see what was happening with the Watson situation, and obviously there was some, you know, investigation done on the Dolphins' part and some trying to get a deal done. But what's that tell Tua, you know, or does it matter to you, Polo?
It matters a lot because imagine, like, I think Steven said this a week ago. He said, I think it was Pete. He said, imagine Tua right now. He's the current girlfriend of the Dolphins, and your boyfriend is over here telling the new girl to, like, you hang up first, are you? I think he said it and it made me laugh, but when I realized it, it's like now Tua doesn't even know if his job is secured at this point. It's a what if, and I feel for the kid because, you know, his confidence may be like extremely down, but like TD said, I don't think he has the physical limitations for this league. And I asked you that, I think a show ago, and I said, do you think Tua can be successful in today's NFL? And you said his accuracy, you know, his accuracy could take him far, and I'm not sure.
Well, let me get a couple guys up here to answer that question because they have some great takes. Pete and Big John, how you guys doing this morning?
My man, I had to come up just because I saw you hosting the show.
Man, I appreciate you, Big John, man. Shout out to you. Hey, did you see Jakeem Grant fumble that ball last night?
Listen, man, I don't even know about the fumble. How could you get a taunting call for staring at the bench? Did you see that?
Man, it was crazy. You know, the Bears got robbed a couple times last night.
And the fake chip block that he didn't even hit nobody. I've never seen a grown man go for a block and roll. He rolled on the floor and got a penalty. I've never seen that before.
Man, that's what I was talking about, man. That was kind of crazy. Hey, I'm going to add TD Finns Talk back up here on the chat. You all right, TD?
Yeah, that was my bad. We're getting an update on my son, and it dropped when I put it on hold.
Oh, that's all good, man. It's all good. We're glad to back. I got Big John up here. Pete just fell off.
What up, big man?
What's up, homie?
But
man,
hey,
I saw you up here. I was like, I gotta say hi to Cameron. This is crazy, man.
Steve needed a mental health day today. He's getting some shut eye, and he's been going hard for the past 5 days. So I did him a solid.
Yeah, no. Hey, Jakeem Grant doing Jakeem Grant things, huh?
Man, I tell you what, you know I'm a Jakeem stan, right? And listen, he's been playing well. But you know, I was telling somebody this last night, like Jakeem has been put in a position to succeed doing what he does best, right? Like return kicks but man, there you go. He got hit on the forearm and pop goes the ball. Man, it was hard to see. TD, back to what we were talking about, man. I asked this question to Polo, and you kind of answered it. You know, is Tua part of this, you know, 5-year plan, or if they have an opportunity to hit up Watson, does that happen in the offseason?
Listen, the good thing is I think this is a blessing in disguise. The Miami Dolphins now have several options. Rodgers actually being a real option. Russell Wilson is one that no one's talking about with their relationship that's been deteriorating for years.
Man, and TD, I was saying that to somebody last night. I would be ecstatic to have Russell Wilson here.
And Watson's an option. And Tua is still an option because, you know, he's under contract with us now. What a lot of people aren't talking about, Cameron, and they want to talk about whether Tua is good or not. And I've been having this conversation with a lot of people, you know, backstage and different things like that. And this is a real concern that everybody wants to ignore. Tua may never be the same after his hip injury. Tua has not been able to get the velocity nor the base in his body to throw deep balls in outside the numbers and throw them deep enough or accurate enough. And no one wants to talk about that being a real possibility. But there are some people that, you know, some people are privy to, behind the scenes that are legitimately saying that these are the reports coming out of Miami, that he really can't throw outside the numbers anymore on an accurate basis or a consistent basis, nor does he have the velocity or the strength anymore. And these offensive coordinators have had to legitimately cater his game to a short-range game.
Big John, what do you think about that?
That's not true. That's not true. But all I ask people to do is consider it being true. Then what?
Big John, what do you got?
I had the same concern. I've had the same concern that TD was talking about. I never heard anybody really talk about it, and every time I try to go up on TD's channel, I gotta put it up in red so he can see it's my message. I love the dude, but I can never seem to get on his panel. But I've had the same concern TD's talking about, because if that is the case, then that is a problem, and there's no way you can't even really hide that problem, because that basically eliminates 1/3 of the field.
Yeah.
You can't stretch the defense if there's no fear of the defense being stretched, no matter who's out there. If that is a legitimate problem, then that is a problem. Now, outside of that, to me, Aaron Rodgers is not coming to Miami, not because I want Tua to be here. People want to say I'm a Tua-neer. I'm not a Tua-neer. I just think Deshaun Watson's going in jail. I was talking to somebody who's he works in law. He goes to me, dude, 10 criminal complaints is still 10 criminal complaints. You're right. They're not, it's not like he's already guilty. And he was telling me, it seems to me like some women wanted a payday. I'm not sitting here saying they're lying or not. Okay, that's a lot. It's a big coincidence that this has been quiet until the moment he's going to get traded. Then everything explodes. So in my opinion, and here's a question for everybody. Are the Texans liable to get in trouble? And he asked me that, and I said, you know what? I don't know. Because to me, it's awfully convenient that you're going to trade Deshaun Watson, who doesn't want to play for you, and all of a sudden, everything you've been covering up pops up. How come the Texans aren't liable for anything? Like, they don't even question him. I haven't heard anybody, ask a question. Did they know? Did they not know? Because if you knew, that's a serious problem.
Hey, so there's a couple items here, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a civil case, and it has nothing to do with the Houston Texans in terms of their culpability, right, with his actions. He wasn't doing anything, on team time that was illegal. It's all civil, right? It's civil complaints.
There are civil complaints, but there are criminal complaints also. That's the only problem of this that bothers me. It's not the civil. The civil is not the issue here. The issue, the civil case, the 22 civil cases aren't the problem here. The 10 criminal complaints is what he can be indicted on when they hear him. I don't care about the civil part.
Yeah, I'm not. I try my best not to talk much about Watson anymore. But I will say this. Here's the deal. Because I can't get into whether Houston knew about anything or not. All I can do is go off of what we do know. What we do know is there were more than 20 civil complaints. Okay, suits filed, right?
Yeah, that's
everybody criticized those complaints for 2 weeks. If there's civil complaints, then why hasn't not one person filed a criminal complaint? For 2 weeks, people were complaining and questioning these women, saying that why hasn't nobody filed a criminal complaint? And once the roars for a criminal complaint got loud enough, then all of a sudden 10 of them went down together and filed a criminal complaint. Only when people were questioning the legitimacy in the first place of why wouldn't a criminal complaint be filed. So I agree with Big John. Me personally, I can care less about a civil suit. The only thing I do care about is a criminal suit. Because almost every NFL player is getting sued right now in the NFL for one reason or another. But the criminal probe, and it's a probe right now, the police department, they're probing They still haven't found enough to where they could charge Deshaun Watson. And they are concerned, from my understanding, that if they end up saying we will not bring charges to Deshaun Watson, they can face a lot of media backlash with women groups. So what that may happen is the district attorney may call for a grand jury, and the grand jury will look at all the evidence, and the grand jury will tell the district attorney, yes, pursue charges, or no, there's not enough to pursue charges. That takes the culpability off of the district attorney. Because I'm telling you now, if they convene a grand jury, that means the district attorney already basically said, I don't have enough, but I don't want to just drop it out of backlash. And the district attorney basically says, yeah, pursue it. Okay, we pursue it. Or no, don't pursue it. Now they can't come at the district attorney and say, hey, why aren't you picking this up? And the district attorney will be able to say because a grand jury said that they wouldn't, which means they don't feel like they would get a conviction anyway.
In other words, he's covering all his bases, is what you're saying.
Exactly. But it's a strong indication that they don't have enough. Anytime they convene a grand jury, they feel like they don't have enough up front to just charge him.
Can I ask you?
They don't want to just brush it off. And it doesn't mean he didn't do anything. It just means that they may just not have enough evidence. And I think everybody knows it's a lot of he say, she say.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? What do you think about the possibility that the Texans knew something? Because to me, that's the part that nobody talks about. But that's very fishy, man.
The problem, Big John, is nobody wants to talk about it because there's no outcome to it. Whether they knew something or not, you won't be able to prove it. So it's irrelevant, you know?
Well, John C. says 22 civil suits, 10 criminal complaints. Grand juries don't take this long. And the reason why it is because prosecution does not have enough evidence. Yeah, grand jury was keened in August. So listen, this is a situation that we just have to let play out. And, if Watson becomes available, then I'm sure the Dolphins are going to, do their due diligence and make a play for Watson. But until all this plays out, there's like TD said, man, we have to move on as a franchise. And until Watson is available, then we should just,
Yeah, we are moving on, but people need to understand. People are trying their very best to ignore all the signs, though, Cameron. I am telling y'all can say I'm writing my own narrative all you want, but Tua was benched on Sunday. You do not go into a game as an active quarterback that can play. If Jacoby got hurt, Tua would have been eligible to play, and they would have played him. If you are eligible to play, then you play him as your starter anyway. Let me ask you a question. With the messed up finger, because Tua was out there pregame throwing the ball just fine, and Tua said he was ready to go and felt he could have gone. Do you think they bench Aaron Rodgers if he has the same situation and he says he can go? Do you think they bench any of these other quarterbacks? The man was benched on Sunday. He could go. Oh, TD, did you not see a swollen finger? Yeah, it's supposed to be swollen, but it's not stopping him from making the throws. He was showing you in pregame he was throwing the ball just fine. And they said, well, he couldn't throw it deep. He don't throw it deep anyway.
So, TD, let me ask you this, man. So Reed Sinnett was poached off our practice squad. So, they signed some stiff that I can't remember who he is that really wasn't activated or he wasn't ready to play. So, it's two of the lesser of two evils. You activate him even though he's got an injured hand and go with Brissett.
You bring the stiff up.
But I didn't. But I heard different. I heard everybody has their own sources, and that's like when we always say, opinions are like buttholes. Everybody has one. But I heard Tua said he couldn't go. I didn't know Tua was benched or that this was
no. That is not. That is a lie. It ain't even an opinion. Tua said he felt good and that he could go. Flores made the decision because Flores told you himself. We kept working it out. We just felt like he couldn't make all the throws. He's a tough kid. He said he was fine. He said he was good to go. But we felt. Flores.
Yeah, organization.
Yeah,
Hey,
whoever's riding that narrative that Tua said that he couldn't go, that was a lie.
Hey, so here's Big John. Man, I appreciate you being on. You got a prediction for Thursday. I'm going to give Dolphin Don and Finn Sanity some time as long as TD's still on, and then I'm going to finish up with TD. So, Big John, I appreciate you being on, man. You're my man, and
No problem,
I got love for you because of Jakeem Grant.
Wow, that's not a lot of love, man. That is not a lot of love.
Hey, but what you got for Thursday, man? What's going to happen? What do the Dolphins need to do to win this game?
I mean, if the defense shows up the way they did the last 2 weeks, if I just can't believe. I find it funny that I haven't heard anybody mention the fact that Xavier Howard threw Brian Flores under the bus, but he kind of did. If
How
they
did he
play
do that?
defense, how did he do that? He did that by saying that they went back to last year's defense, where they should have never changed. Why would you change the defense as first in turnovers? Change the philosophy. That to me doesn't make any sense. When you're a press man team, you play press man.
So, Big John, what do you got for Thursday? What's the score?
I think if they play defense like that, we got a chance to win. I just don't know how we're going to score enough points.
Shout out to Big John, because
Hey,
I
Big
am
John.
going to do a stream on that subject, because he is 1,000% correct.
100 hit the target, bro. Absolutely.
Hey,
John, thanks for being on
hey,
this morning, man.
Ask you one more. Let me say one more thing before I go. Hey,
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm advocating for Albert Wilson, their quarterback. He did play in high school. It might be a threat, but you never know, man. That might be an option nobody talks about.
Hey, let's run the Wildcat with AB. I got you, Big John. Hey, thanks for being on this morning, my brother.
All right, homeboy. Y'all be safe, man.
All right, right on. Hey, let me bring up Dolphin Don and Finn Sanity. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Morning, everybody.
What's up, homie?
Hey, man, prayers to you, TD, and also Epps out there, man. I know the times are crazy right now, man. But I did want to say one thing, man. It's not Tua's fault. It's not Flo's fault. Everybody remember when we were about to draft him, Tua said, well, I visited the Dolphins, man, and they acted like,
Cold shoulders.
so what? Nobody wanted him here. And I think Greer probably drafted him out of, Good Morning Football. The Dolphins need to get Tua. No, and that's probably what happened. So Tua wound up in a place.
Good point.
He didn't want, nobody wanted him. And every week, remember, Flo's getting these questions like, "Hey, when's Tua going to start? Who's your starting quarterback? We're on a 3-0 run here, man. Hey, who's the starting quarterback?" And he finally was like, "Hey, I know the kid's not ready, but he's going to start against the Rams." And so he's probably expecting, well, he's going to go out there and put up a goose egg. Well, they wound up winning, but anyway, Tua was not ready. He's still not ready. And it's not his fault. It's not Flo's fault. I just feel like, and now they're kind of like, okay, well, if we just hold him out a few games, we can build our narrative. It's time to get him out of here. And it's time to get him out of here. If he's not part of their immediate plans as quarterback, yeah, let's ship him off to somebody like Tennessee. That's what I think. That's my 2 cents.
That's an interesting take, because it's got to be somebody's fault, and like I said, Tua's not on the field for one reason or another. Flores, is the head coach, and everything stops and starts with him. So somebody's got to be the blame here.
Yeah, it ain't his fault. It ain't Flo's fault.
It'll end up being Chris Greer's fault at the end of the day, because he drafted him. He is the one who has to make that final selection.
I agree.
Go down as Greer.
I agree. If that's the way this thing plays out, I agree 100%. And Greer and Flores stuck their flag in the sand with Tua, and they're gonna ride or die with him, right, until they can get an alternative, before that. But I think those alternatives, unless you said Russell Wilson or Rodgers comes down here, or Watson, if he clears up his stuff, it's ride or die with Tua.
Yeah, in facts, because he's been playing so long when he's hurt that he's probably developed habits that he probably can't get over, or it's going to take a long time to get over.
But TD brings up a good point about his hip and his recovery from that hip surgery and the ability, or now we're seeing the ability not to be able to throw down the field yet, and that's a valid point.
Hey, Cameron.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I want you to really think about it. What you saw in Alabama, even when Tua has a good pocket in Miami or he can take off, you are not seeing the same player physically. I don't care if the old line breaks down, whatever it is. In a perfect, when Tua does have great situations, you are not seeing the same Alabama player. And you can't put that on the O-line. You can't put it on coaches. You can't put that on anything but his body, because when we do give him time, you still don't see that Alabama player. And I don't care if you argue that it's rare he gets the time. You still are not seeing that same Alabama player. And last thought on that, the hip injury. He probably isn't dealing with it anymore, but it's giving him a permanent.
You know, I think
Facts.
it's the recovery from that hip injury is a lot more intricate and
Can you hear
long. Yeah, you there?
Oh, my bad.
I think that hip injury recovery is a lot more long-term and intricate than any of us realize it is. And to your point, it's kind of evident on the field, TD, that that's the case.
And now you got, don't forget, the ribs are still recovering. Don't forget that.
Yeah, the
Don't
ribs, and
forget
now you got a busted finger to deal with, right?
No, but you had a busted finger last year too, and now there's a new busted finger. It's just Miami's gonna move on from the sheer wheel of you haven't played 15 games and you've had 4 NFL injuries. And when I say NFL, I count the hip because it affected them early on. As far
TD,
as Flores saying when he's healthy, he goes. And that's why, Fitz may have been playing early.
Hey, TD, I want to kind of get away from this too and watch some talk, because while I got you on, we're at the halfway point of the season, and I presented this question to Daniel. Obviously the Baltimore game is a huge hurdle, and we're not expecting to win. But if we win, we win. But the 5 games after that, on paper, are all winnable games, right? At the Jets, Carolina at home, Giants at home, Jets bye week, Jets at home, at New Orleans. Those are all winnable games, correct?
They're also losable games.
100%. But the Ravens, kind of the odds are really stacked against us. But at least you can put those 5 games after that at a 50% win rate, right?
I mean, you can, but and the sad thing is here. Okay, I'm gonna say yeah, but here's the sad part about it. Regardless of which quarterback you go into war with, the odds are still the same, even if Tua is better. Because all of these games are going to be determined by the defense anyway. The defense is, if they hold them and give us a shot, it's just a matter of do we take advantage of that shot. I want you to think about the game we just played versus Houston. We get a turnover, and Jacoby Brissett takes the team all the way down the field on like an 85-yard touchdown, all the way down, the one bright spot of the whole game offensively. But what's the difference with Tua? We may have an opening drive all the way down the field, and then the rest of the game is just struggle factory. No matter how we slice it, no matter how it happens. So either way, this team is putting up almost 10 points less per game than last year.
Hey, listen, regardless of who the quarterback is, right? Because Tua does the same thing. He's got his scripted drive. He drives down, and it's crapola from there on out, just as it was this past, Sunday with the Texans. Like Brissett, man, he was ugly in that game. Yep. outside of that first drive. So, but going back to your question about the defense, I'm in the opinion that this defense is starting to trend upwards. That you're finding some real good players in Holland and Jones together on the safety position. That Phillips is evolving and getting better, and Agba is kind of, he might be turning himself into a franchise cornerstone. Whether we pay him or not is another story. But my point is that defensive line is looking better too. Yeah. So back to what you were saying about the defense, if we continue trending this way, is the defense enough to win some of these games?
Yeah, but the defense is enough to win about 60% of these games easily. And I do mean easily, but this is where I'm mad at Coach Flores. I feel like he was letting the defensive coordinator call his game, which you should allow the defensive coordinator to do his job without stepping in early in the season. Because we've had this in us the whole time. I don't care what anybody says, but we weren't calling this. We were zone a lot. We weren't dialing up any zero blitzes and stuff. And I blame that on Flores, but this is where my conspiracy theorist hat comes in. And yes, I said that so y'all don't try to kill me later. I am admitting that this is a conspiracy theory. This is where I feel like they were testing Tua. We're not going to let you hang off the back of this defense. Let's see if you can carry this team offensively. And then when it's all said and done, I don't think they thought that they would lose that many games. Then they said, okay, let's give them the defense versus Buffalo, because we did this versus Buffalo. We played the same defense versus Buffalo. That's why we shut them down for 2.5 quarters. But
and then what happened? Then we went soft zone and got crushed.
Because they had already saw enough. The offense couldn't even hold us down after we were balling on defense.
Yep.
The offense couldn't do nothing. And it's almost like, go back to zone. It is what it is. I don't care. Because the defense is tired. And then last week they said, let's give Jacoby a team that gives zero blitz and let's see if we can get this W. And he was ugly, but we got the win. And I'm not contributing that to him because it was all the defense, in my opinion.
Oh, you're not wrong, brother. You're not wrong.
Hey,
so,
I gotta switch off with the wife, man. It's time for me to go in the hospital and she come out to the car. So
hey, big prayers up to you, TD. Big prayers up to you, brother. Jolie, back on the show. Unmute yourself, Jolie.
I had to definitely come back. Man, I was looking forward to talking to TD and Finsanity, but I guess, they got to go.
Finsanity, come back on. I didn't get to you, Finsanity. Come back on, please. I got 10 more minutes left of the show. And listen, we're going to add Pete. You okay with that, Jolie? Pete?
Of course. I love Pete. Hey, Pete.
Hey, Petey,
what's
Pete,
going
what's
on?
up, brother?
You see, we lose TD, but we get baby TD on the screen. It's all love, baby. What's going
Pete,
on, everybody? How's your day?
Good morning, Pete. Good, brother. How are you?
What's up? Good, man. Still feeling good. Still feeling blessed from that win on Sunday. It just feels amazing. No matter how it came, it feels good to be on this side. It never feels good to be on the L. Never. So
yeah, you know what?
I came in a little late. I was hearing a lot of.
Pete, go ahead.
Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
I'm
Pete,
having a lot
ahead.
of lag today, guys. Go ahead.
No, you
I
made
was
a good
listening
point.
to you guys. Yeah, I'm on a bad delay. I'm sorry.
That's all right, Pete. Maybe come back in. Jolie.
Yeah, I think he had some technical difficulties, but overall, this is still a win. You know what I mean? I just want to go back to the fact that we need to enjoy these. They are few and far between this season so far. So we definitely needed to go ahead and enjoy this. Finsanity, welcome back.
Good morning.
Hey, Jolie. How are you doing?
Good morning, Finsanity. Thanks for coming back on. Sorry I didn't get to you earlier.
Oh, no, sorry. I had got like a call real quick. I'm sorry. So I had to back out because I didn't want you to unmute me. And then it's like, boom, she's in a full-blown conversation. Hi, everybody.
Good morning,
Hi,
man.
Jolie.
How are you today?
I'm okay. Just, going through the week, getting ready for Thursday, being mentally prepared. This is a game that I really want because we know what the Ravens are. We know what they do to us. So this is a game that I really want back, especially going back to 2019, how they ran up the score on us. Granted, I mean, it was kind of expected. We were going in, blind. Very, very beaten up roster and depth chart. But, it'll be really good to see, where we are, how we can compete. I mean, if we can my biggest concern is Lamar's legs, right? Because we even saw when Josh Allen, when he made his plays, it was because he was running in the first. So we can talk about how our defense and the zero blitz and how it contained, the passing game. But when Josh Allen wanted to run for the most part, he did. So, I mean, Lamar is a different animal, different speed, quickness, agility, shiftiness, make a lot of guys miss. and he can, he'll just create. And you see now, like, even if we can manage to get a lead, he's able to come back now just using his arm. You got Hollywood Brown and his speed. So, I mean, we're going to be in a fight. And, we're going in. We don't know if we're going to have DVP. Will Fuller, he's out. But if there's one thing I know about this, team, we're gonna put a good effort together. We're gonna try. We're gonna fight, and hopefully we can score some points, keep the game manageable. And if by God it comes down to, Jason Sanders, I'd rather have Jason Sanders trying to kick a game-winning field goal than seeing Justin Tucker go out there and try to hit a game-winning field goal, So it'll be a lot of X's and O's, a big chess match. They have a pretty decent defense. We have a pretty decent defense when we want to run our type of defense, if we want to force our will. So, I was kind of hoping, there would be a Manning cast and Lamar would pop on it for his, comeback win against the Vikings. That didn't happen, so, nothing but,
Well, for Sandy, listen, you bring up some good points, and I was talking about this earlier, like the type of defense that is needed to play. And I think, Agba and Phillips have been trending up, and they set a good hard edge, and they're playing well. They're getting some penetration and pressure on the quarterback. I think the key to keeping the Ravens off the field, number one, is to, prolong your offensive drive. But number two, when Jackson's out on the field, you got to contain him in the pocket, make him that passer, because we do have a good secondary. We do match up well with them, and just keep the pressure going up the middle on him and keep him in that pocket. You never know what happens.
I gotta ask you, Insanity, who do you think is the most important player for our defense that we'll need this Thursday, and who do you think will be the most important player for our offense?
Defense. I mean, I would also like to look at the probably Eric Rowe versus Mark Andrews matchup. So I would say quietly, Eric Rowe. I mean, if you're going to send Javon or Jones or even Nick Needham, if you get a hand on Lamar, you better take him down, because once he makes you miss, he's full flight. He's going to spin out. He's going to do something. But I would like to see how we contain Mark Andrews. We've been pretty decent against tight ends this year. So keeping that trend. I mean, he's going to take his shots with Hollywood because they're both from Florida. They're going to want to make like a grand, homecoming stand. You'll see a lot of Lamar and probably a lot of Hollywood Brown jerseys in there, because we seem to not even care about showing up in the stands. But on the offensive side of the ball, I would have to say we're just going to have to go. I'm going to put a wild card in. We could say Gesicki. We could say whomever, Wild and all that. A running back. Any one of them. If any one of them decides, we're on prime time and I would love to show up today, I would be here for it. Any one of them. I don't care if it's Malcolm Brown, Savon Ahmed, Miles Gaskins, Patrick Laird. I don't care. If anyone wants to say, today I'm on prime time and I want to go out and put up a big game and put up big numbers so the nation can see that next year they should put me on their fantasy team, I don't care. Any one of them. And that's to me the wild card.
Vincenti, I said that earlier in this broadcast this morning. Like, our run game is underrated. Our offensive line is one of the top run blocking teams in the NFL, believe it or not. And I like Ahmed and Gaskin and what they do, especially outside the tackles. And I think you control the clock. You get those guys some chunk yards and keep Jackson off the field by running the ball. And you know what that does also? Takes the pressure off Brissett or Tua, whoever's going to play on Thursday, because, Brissett can't be throwing up the ducks that he was on Sunday against the Ravens defense.
Throwing the hill?
Yeah, I said he can't be throwing up those. He can't be throwing up those ducks like he did last Sunday.
Well, here's the crazy thing, I know it was the fan week and everybody's happy. There was a wedding. Shout out to the new married couple.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dog Freaky getting all the airtime on TV and national media that her heart and soul can handle.
Oh, believe me, she handles it all.
Shout out to Tail Breeders for being the ultimate sponsor of this channel. But
shout out to East 32 Dolphins tailgate one time.
It's crazy that we finally beat the team we were supposed to beat. I actually just put a bet on the Dolphins over total wins on FanDuel. You don't need to know what the number is, just know I took the over on it. But this is a game like last year that like we wouldn't think that we won, but somehow we figured out how to do it, right? Like the Rams games. We weren't supposed to beat the Rams. Our defense showed up, put on, the show of all shows, and we won it. We can even go back to the Cardinals game. Granted, a lot of mishaps on their side, but our defense showed up and somehow we won it. I feel like that could be that game this year, right? We probably could have did it against the Bills, but we didn't finish it, right? So if you want to keep your playoff hopes alive and you're really playing for it, you kind of have to like leave everything. Like I would say just empty everything. Like what do you have to lose after this? If you can somehow fight out a win against the Ravens, it's going to be great morale, great energy, and it can really like spark something here. I was always on 10-7 as a record, but like you can't get that unless you win out, right? That Titans game obviously going to be tough, but this is a game where you just look, each other in the eye and say, "Man, we're home. This team has beat up on us relentlessly. Since I can like remember, let's just go out and try to play like a tough game." Like the last like major moment I remember like before the whole Lamar era was like that Kiko Alonso hit on Joe Flacco. Remember?
I was there right in front of that man. He
Right?
took his head off.
And then they just were like, "Yeah, we're taking this game from y'all." Like we got to show some form of toughness, and that's something we haven't seen all year. Like we've seen it somewhat in the last two games from the defense side of the ball, but it still seems like our offense is just kind of like, walking around this thing and skating by. So hopefully the offense brings it to them and, comes with a lot of energy underneath the lights. I personally won't be at that game. I'm heading back up north. So to everyone who goes, shout out to y'all. Hopefully we come out with a dub, but it's going to be a very tough game. And
yeah, I agree with you. But I also agree with you. Let's show some toughness. I like you taking the over on the wins this season because I know what that is. And because I think we can go into the last two games with 7 wins, and we'll see what happens. I think outside of this Ravens game on Thursday, we got some very winnable games down the stretch, and including a bye week to get right. So, it's not out of the stretch of imagination that we can get this done. Hey, listen, we got 75 people watching the show, but 40 likes. Smash that like button before we get off the air here. I've been blessed to have Finsanity and Joe Lee up here with me in the past few minutes. Finsanity, before I close this out here, what you got for a score prediction?
don't ask me that.
Come on.
Listen, I know you know how to lie, so let's go. Give it to me.
Man, how about this? How about we get some clarity at the QB position and they stop, skate walking around what's going on with it. Give us for once, give us an honest answer of what's going on, what's going to happen, and like what to look forward to. Score prediction, I can't do that. I'm not going to jinx it. I'm just going to, try to enjoy the game. I want the Dolphins to win. Do I believe that right now? If I was being honest, no. That's just the honest, that's just the honest thing. Like, I can't say that a team that religiously beats us by like 20 plus points and like our offense is still what it is. Like, nah.
I feel you.
I got a question for you, Finsanity, real quick, Cameron.
Yeah, go ahead.
Forget about the overall score. How many points do you think we will put up as an offense? No matter whether how many points if we have Tua and how many points if we have Brisket.
Brisket. That's a funny name. I had some smoked brisket from Chipotle last night, which is really good.
Oh, listen, stop right there, Finsanity. Next time you're down, you need to let me know so I can give you some real smoked brisket at the tailgate.
Got you.
All right, and that's a promise.
Got you. Man, no matter who starts, how about that? No matter who starts, let's at least try to get to 20. Let's try to get to 20. You
don't think we can get to 24 at least?
Do you not see this offense?
Yeah, I know. I'm
Like,
wishing it open. You know, I'm one of those.
I'm not gonna act like the Ravens are just. I mean, granted, Minnesota just went out there and put what they put up against them, but I don't think we have the weapons that Minnesota has. So let's try to get to 20 and see where things lie. Because I mean, our defense has been keeping the scores low. So maybe by the grace and mercy of God, 20 will be enough. But let's try to get there. I'm not going to say some outrageous number. Like, I just think like our offense is just going to go move the ball. We don't have a consistent run game. We had a lot of turnovers, a lot of mistakes, penalties. And then we're having missed field goals and stuff. So we've been leaving a lot of points and drives out there. So my goal is to get to 20.
I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. Hey, Finsanity, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to close out with Jolie and then have a final few words. But safe travels back home and hope to see you at the tailgate sometime soon, Finsanity.
Bye, Finsanity.
Bye.
All right, take care. So, Jolie, man, it's a pleasure to close out the show with you today. What you got for Thursday?
Oh man, like I said before, I think we can get 24. I really do think so. I think we can at least score 2 touchdowns, and a few kicks. Wait, we're gonna need a little more than that, but you know what I mean. We can do. You know what? I'll do this: 2 passing touchdowns, 1 running touchdown, and 2 kicks. There you go. That's where I get my points at. But I do think overall we can definitely do it, and I agree with Finsanity. If we can, our defense has been keeping it low. Which is a good thing for us. So if we can keep them contained, like we talked about earlier, and keep that number low overall, I think we can kink out that extra kick to win it all, for sure.
Hey, so, crazy things happen Sunday. Let's continue with that on Thursday. I agree with you. We got to make this a much cleaner game, more disciplined in terms of turnovers and penalties. Control the line of scrimmage, run the ball, control the clock, which actually when we run the ball, we've done a really good job of controlling the clock. We can't get to a position where we're down, more than 1 touchdown. I think we do those things, give our team the opportunity to be in the game at the fourth quarter, with a chance to win the game. That's what I want to see. I mean, that'll be exciting to me to see that. Shout out to Pete for the $10, $9.99 from Fantasy Fan Panel donation. I appreciate that very much. We got the 50 likes on the show today. 71 are watching. I appreciate that. Jolie, any final words before I shut it down?
Yeah, I expect Gesicki to at least get one of those touchdowns for sure. I think he's going to be our brightest spot, to be honest with you. And at the end of the day, I know that we have what it takes to win with defense, with offense, and I'm just here to hope and pray we can close it out and actually make it happen. But other than that, thank you, Tail Greeter. Thank you, East 32. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, the Dolphins, for pulling our hairs this season. My goodness. But overall, thank you for everybody. Thank you, Cameron, for having me up here. It was great, honestly, and I really do appreciate you. It was great meeting you as well.
You too, Jolie. You coming out to the game Thursday or no?
I have actually work dinner, so I won't be able to come to the game. I wish I could, but I'll definitely be watching it. I will side stream it while my bosses are in front of me.
Right on, Jolie. You're always welcome to East 32 Dolphins tailgate, man. It's a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
All right, take care. Hey, man, that was Jolie Finsanity. Man, I enjoyed this today. Thank you, everybody in the chat box. Thank you for everyone hitting the like button. Continue to do so. We got up to about 100 viewers today. I want to shout out Stephen D and Miami Sports Music. We have 8,000 subscribers to this show, man, and we're in like the 128th episode. So there's something to be said to that. We appreciate everyone's support. Esta, Chef Jew, anybody who didn't get on the show today, we appreciate your support. Fantasy Fan Panel, Pete, man, thanks for the shout out. I appreciate the donation. We gave Stephen D a little shut eye and hopefully a breather for his brain so we can get back at it tomorrow. Anthony, you asked a question, how do I find the tailgate? Our great sponsor, tailgreeter.com, or you can download the app on Android or Apple. It's free. Do so right now, Tailgreeter, the app. And you can, once downloaded, you can search East 32 Dolphins Tailgate. I am the host of East 32 Dolphins Tailgate and the host for all Miami Dolphins tailgates through tailgreeter.com. We're located in row 209, right off gate 2 off the turnpike in the orange parking lot. By all means, make sure you have your parking sorted out before you get to the game, before game day, because parking's FUBAR out there this year. But we're right underneath the East Orange 22 sign in the orange parking lot. Come see us. We have a great time. This Thursday, we got the Ravens in town. I got a couple Ravens fan groups joining us. I got a bunch of Dolphins fans coming out. We got Solo D is going to perform live. We got his producer on the 1s and 2s. We got a live DJ. And it's at night. Man, I'm going to light that tailgate up like it's Club Live or something, man. It's going to be fun. Listen, I appreciate every one of you. I appreciate tailgreeter.com, Miami Sports Music. Y'all have a blessed day. See you tomorrow. Take care.